2008 Dodge Caliber, changing the starter. Tools needed: 3/8 wrench, ratchet wrench, electrical or manual, extension, 10mm socket, 13mm deep well socket, long pliers, 15, 13, and 10mm wrench, stubby cross tip, and gloves. Remove battery access cover. Disconnect and remove the battery. Disconnect the battery using a 10mm. Remove the battery retainer, 13mm, and extension with a wrench. Remove the battery tray, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13mm. There's a 10mm right by the radiator cap. Don't forget to remove that and tighten it back when putting it back together. Disconnect sensor. Pull the tab up, squeeze, and pull out. Disconnect airbox tabs. Route the connector up and away. Retain it back there. Use big pliers or channel locks to disconnect the main antifreeze line in the back behind the breather box. Pull it out and stuff it with a bag to prevent leakage. Pull the vacuum line out of the way. Then move the antifreeze line behind it out of the way. That will hold it in place, giving you access to loosen the bottom part of the air tube. Flat tipped screwdriver, stubby, to loosen the air tube. Remove the air tube. Box should have came off with it. It didn't, but we pull it out and disconnect the breathing line from right there and pull it out. With all of that out of the way, you go ahead and disconnect this tab, pull it down, and pull it off. Now you should have a clear unobstructed pass to this 13mm bolt and these 4 10mm bolts that holds the throttle body onto the manifold. And now the 4 10s. Remove the bracket. And the remaining 2 bolts. You can rest the throttle body down here. Now you have full access to the starter via 115 and the second 15mm bolt. Only 2 bolts. Remember to put back that grounding cable. Don't forget it. 15mm on the bottom one, 15 on the top one. Once you've removed the top one, move the grounding cable out the way and the starter is loose. Now you can rock it out the way, out of the pocket, and slide it out. Now it will take a little bit of manpower. Remove this shifter cable out the way and it should come right out. There it is. Squeeze and disconnect the signal wire. This is a signal wire. If you want to test if your starter is working, you could jump it in the top portion of the harness. It's a yellow, same yellow wire, yellow and brown. And you will connect this to your positive to jump it to try to see if the starter is working. Main battery power, 13mm, disconnect it. And the starter is free. Installing a new starter. You can see this is the replacement. Got it from a junkyard. Inspect it for any damages. Connect the wiring for the new starter. Go ahead, put it on. The other wiring on. Signal wire. Ready to install. Slide the starter back in place. Remember, shift cable out the way. Ground cable, do not forget. It does take a little manpower to go back in place. There it is. Sitting right back where it belongs. Don't forget, bolt goes through the grounding cable, then goes back into the starter, just like that. Once again, don't forget that grounding cable that goes in with that bolt, and then you catch the other one to get it started, to seat the starter properly and have an even seating. Okay, now we have both 15s back in, one and the one holding the grounded cable. Now you put the throttle body back on. You know, when you're positioning it in place, there is a little pilot hole right there. That pilot hole, you line it up and it goes right back in place. Position it, then you tighten all the screws back in place, all 4. So remember the first 2 on your left, and then the other 2 that holds the bracket in place on this side. Okay, you put the bracket on with the 13 right there and screw it in place. And then you position it to put the 10 in place for the throttle body. Don't forget the last one down there. There it is, all 4 in place with the bracket and the 13. So 4 10s and the 13. Okay, everything is tightened. Now we put back the coil plug, the main coil plug, back on here. There it is. And push that back. Next, you install the breathing tube. Go in and position it right on the throttle body. If you could see, it's pretty hard to hold on to it and do it, so you could see it, slide it on. So I'm going to put it on and then put it in the next view. There is so much hose, there's very little space to work with, so bear with me. That's the throttle body, you see it on. Now you see where my hand is to tighten it, so you leave enough space and gap to get in there. This is the idea why you need a stubby. You barely have room in there. Position the air box back in place, making sure the breather hose goes back right here, and all 3 tabs goes back in their respective places. Okay, breather hose is on. Tabs are they're snapped back in place. Slide the tube back onto the breather tube itself. It's kind of hard doing it with one hand. Back on. Plug the sensor back up. Close it and tighten it. It's time to put the battery tray back in. Now they're back in, you tighten. 13 millimeter, 13 millimeter socket. The battery back in place, and don't forget the battery retainer that goes down here. Flush like that. Go ahead and put your other 13 in and tighten it. And you reconnect your battery terminals. Oh, great. There we go. Okay, there we go. And these are 10 millimeters. Now they're tightened. We go ahead and put the top of the battery access breather box in. Sliding it back on, making sure the tabs lock in place. There it is. Starter is in. Now it's time to test it. Okay guys, this is the moment of truth. It works. Have a great day, YouTube. Get to the point.